What's going on, everybody? It's Andrew back again with another video, and today finally I'm releasing my full review of the Samsung Galaxy Book 3 Pro 360. I've been using it for the past month or so. I did my unboxing and first look review. I'll leave a link in the description below. If you didn't see it, check it out. Now, a lot of improvements over last year when it comes to this product, especially when it comes to the display, performance, even battery life to some extent, but really improved product in terms of the build quality as well. So we're going to get into all the numbers. We're going to get into whether or not I think this is worth the pretty hefty price tag that it does have, although you can get it on sale Best Buy. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but really looking good. I like what they did here, and it only can get better, I think, for next year. Hopefully we'll see some more improvements because there are a few things that I'm not crazy about. Hey everybody, it's Andrew, and this is my review of the Samsung Galaxy Book 3 Pro 360 here for 2023. Coming up. Now, before we get to the unit itself, I just want to let everyone know, in the interest of transparency and full disclosure, that I'm not being paid by Samsung. I'm not being sponsored by Samsung. All the opinions you're about to hear are my own. Samsung is not getting copy approval. That means they're seeing this video for the first time, just like you. Now, this unit was purchased with my own money. I did not receive a review unit from Samsung. And for those that have been on the fence regarding the Samsung Galaxy Book 3 Pro 360, great news. $200 off. It is now down to $1699.99. That, again, is a great savings on an improved laptop in terms of the display, performance, battery life, and overall build quality. But this is a great savings. You don't want to miss it, especially if you've been debating whether or not to get it. This might be the time to get it. And here you get the unit itself. And this is the graphite model, and you can see it here. Very nice in terms of the build. This is definitely an improvement over last year's model. You get some branding there, Samsung branding. You definitely can see some fingerprints already. So we'll see. Very thin and very light, as you can see here. So that is something that I'm really liking, the build quality. But with this aluminum build quality here instead of the magnesium, you're definitely going to have some more heft to this, that's for sure. And here you can see the front of the unit. There's a lip to help you open it up. And then, of course, you're going to see what's on the sides there. Pretty nice in terms of the build. Okay, let's check out the port selection. We're going to start off on the left side. We get an HDMI 1.4 port, two USB-C Thunderbolt 4 ports that are full function, supporting data, charge, and display out. Now, moving over to the right side is a micro SD card reader, a full-size USB-A port, and a 3.5 millimeter microphone headphone combo jack. Now, as far as the HDMI is concerned, Samsung is listing this as HDMI 1.4, which is quite shocking here in 2023. As HDMI 1.4 only supports monitors up to 4K 30 hertz, which is 10.2 gigabits per second, which wouldn't be sufficient here in 2023, that's for sure. So why is this not listed as HDMI 2.0 or even 2.1, which can certainly support up to 8K 120? That's a really big mystery, but some people are reporting that when they connect it to a monitor that does support 4K 60, it does work. So I don't know what's going on there as far as if it's actually HDMI 2.0, but it does work according to some people. So just take it for what it's worth, but they are listing this as HDMI 1.4. Now, the other thing I wanted to point out, this has a micro SD card reader as opposed to a full-size SD card reader. And me, as a content creator, I prefer to have that full-size SD card reader, as a lot of the cameras I use support full-size SD cards. So it just makes it a little bit easier for a content creator. At least that's my opinion. I know some people prefer micro SD cards. So again, it's personal preference. But for me, as a content creator, I would have liked to have seen a full-size SD card reader on this unit. Now, when it comes to upgrading the RAM, it's not an option here since it is soldered into the motherboard. Now, my review unit has 16 gigabytes of LPDDR5 RAM. It is running in dual channel mode. I didn't see an option for 32, so that is something to keep in mind. Now, the Ultra does have a 32 gigabyte option. Not here. It doesn't look like it. And then as far as that RAM, again, it's soldered in, so you as the user cannot upgrade it if your needs change down the road. Keep that in mind. Now, as far as the SSD, the good news there is that it is upgradable. And judging by these reads and writes, this is Gen 4 speeds that we like to see here in 2023. And it looks like there might even be another M.2 SSD slot next to this one over here. And this one might support another SSD. If anybody's been able to do it, I know they've done it on other units in the non-360 model. So I'm curious to see, has anybody been able to use that as a second SSD slot? It looks like it would support it. I haven't had a chance to check it out, but that would be great, giving you even more options when it comes to the storage. Now you're looking at Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3. Now that combo card is soldered in as well, so that's not upgradable either. But they are both working really well. I've had no issues in the 1 month that I've had this, so really good on that front in terms of the wireless. Now before we get to the display, let's hear a word from today's sponsor. Today's video is brought to you by Best Buy. Now, I've teamed up with Best Buy once again to bring you some of these great deals and great savings on some of your favorite laptops here for 2023. And without further ado, let's get right to it. There are a lot of savings. We're going to start off with the Surface Pro 9. Of course, I reviewed that last year. Very popular on the channel, a very popular device. It is now down to $999. So that's going to be great for those that are looking for a 2-in-1 detachable. That, of course, is the Surface Pro 9, which sets the standard really for that form factor. And I liked a lot of aspects about it. And with this discount at $999, you're getting a lot for the price. Now, of course, you still need to buy the type cover separately as well as the pen. So just keep that in mind. Now, sticking with the Surface theme here, we're looking at the Laptop 5, also released last year. I reviewed that as well. That's now down to $899.99. That's $100 off the initial price, which was $999. I think that might have been also reduced. So good savings here on a really solid laptop. Not a huge update over the Laptop 4, but solid nonetheless. So you may want to check that one out. Now, this one's really good. This is one of my favorites from last year. I reviewed this, of course. This is the Dell Inspiron 7620 2-in-1, a 16-inch convertible with a gorgeous OLED display, 16 gigabytes of RAM. It's also got the NVIDIA GeForce MX 550. That one is now on sale for $1199.99. Yes, that is $350 off the initial asking price. That's a big savings here on a really great, solid 2-in-1 convertible. Now, if you don't want a 16-inch, well, the Dell Inspiron 7420 2-in-1 is also on sale. That one has a Full HD Plus touch display with 16 gigabytes of RAM, 512 gigabytes of SSD storage. That one's $200 off with a price of $849.99. Really great savings on a more portable 2-in-1 convertible over the 16-inch. Both having great savings here for 2023 at Best Buy. And here's another good one. We're looking at the Lenovo Flex 5i, a 15.6-inch Full HD touchscreen laptop running the Core i5. That's the 11th gen, which is pretty good actually, with 8 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigs of SSD storage. Comes in a really nice graphite gray. That's on sale for $529.99. That's a really affordable price with a savings of $170 off, which was originally $699. That's really good, folks. This is a solid laptop, especially for a student, a secondary laptop, or just somebody who doesn't want to break the bank. This is a great choice. Now, there are even more deals. I couldn't get to all of them, but of course, I will leave links for those in the description below, as well as the ones we've talked about today. And I want to thank Best Buy for sponsoring today's video. Okay, let's talk about the display, and it's a really good one here as we're seeing improvements over last generation as far as this Galaxy Book line is concerned. We now have a bigger 16-inch display with a 16:10 aspect ratio, higher resolution 3K, and a 400 nit display. So it's definitely brighter than last year's model, which of course suffered from the fact that it just wasn't bright enough. It was too dim. Now, one thing to note about this, it is an AMOLED display. They're calling it a dynamic AMOLED 2X display to be specific, and it's really good. It's got color accuracy that you'd want. It's got great coverage of the color gamut, and it really will be great for doing Lightroom, Photoshop, video editing, color grading, and the like. So if you're a content creator, this is going to be really good for that. Now, one thing that really is something to point out here is the fact that it is a glossy display. And I know I made a lot of this in the live streams, and I've talked about it quite a bit to this point. And I wanted to point this out because it is extremely glossy. It's probably one of the glossiest displays I've seen on the channel. panel. Having said that, depending on your lighting conditions, you will notice that glare and reflection, of course, and I'm in a studio, so I will concede that that does reflect a little bit more than the average person who won't have these bright lights and so forth, but it really is a very glossy display. So if you're thinking about using this outdoors, keep in mind in direct sunlight you will have issues, despite the fact that it does get to 400 nits in terms of the brightness. It's just very glossy. So I just needed to point that out. Now, I personally prefer matte displays. I think you've known that over the years as I've talked about business-focused laptops, which certainly have a lot of matte displays that I do prefer, but I do enjoy this AMOLED display, especially consuming media, watching Netflix, Amazon, YouTube, watching high dynamic range content. It all looks great on this dynamic AMOLED display. Now, the other thing to note, it has a high refresh rate, a dynamic refresh rate to be specific. So out of the box, it is 60 hertz, but you can enable it to 120, which will give you that really smooth scrolling and the very fluid experience. Or you can keep it at 60 to save a little bit more battery life, or you can put it into dynamic, which will, of course, automatically change between the two as needed. So that is the blend between the two different modes. So that is something that I like with this model this year. I think this is a big improvement over last year. Having the high refresh rate is something people wanted. They certainly delivered that here on the Galaxy Book 3 Pro 360 here for 2023. You got the tent mode right here, so this will definitely be good for recipes in the kitchen, consuming media. And then, of course, the same could be said for the stand mode, or what I like to call presentation mode. As you can notice, the 16-inch display is very glossy. And then, of course, you could always put it into the tablet mode, great for use with the S Pen. And, of course, I'm left-handed, but as you can see here, this will be good in that mode. So this is the camera on the brand new Samsung Galaxy Book 3 Pro 360. It's a 1080p camera, and it is a pretty nice camera at that. You're looking at 1080p video, of course, and it has a really good video quality. What do you think about the audio quality? Now, there are some extra features on this. You get the face effects, you get the background blur effect, you could change the color of the background. There's auto framing, there's the HDR effect, of course, and there's also eye contact. These are all the things that we've been seeing on other brands as well. So finally, Samsung is bringing that to their camera. This is not an IR camera, so you cannot log in with face recognition with Windows Hello, but you can use your finger in terms of the fingerprint scanner. That power button doubles as a fingerprint scanner. But I'm curious to know what you think. Let me know in the comment section below. What do you think about the video quality? What do you think about the audio quality of these array mics? I am curious to know. And for those wondering, yes, you can open the lid with one finger. That's not something you normally can do with a 2-in-1 convertible, so it's good to see that. Although I notice the hinges are a little bit loose, I notice some screen wobble here, which can get pretty annoying when you are typing, so something to be aware of. Again, I don't like screen wobble as much as I don't like really glossy displays. Two things that this does definitely exhibit here, so just keep that in mind. Now, as far as the keyboard, as I mentioned in the other reviews I did in this line, the key travel's a little bit on the shallow side, not too much to my liking, of course, but you can get some good, comfortable typing done. Although, again, I wish it was just a little bit more key travel, although the feedback was good, the tactility was good, so just bear that in mind. But as far as the touchpad, it is an oversized touchpad. It's a clicky touchpad. It's not a haptic touchpad, which we've been seeing lately. We don't get that here, although the responsiveness was good when it comes to scrolling and doing all the gestures. It is a big size touchpad, as I mentioned. And the other thing is, with the inclusion of the numpad, it moves the touchpad off center a bit, which you get used to pretty quickly. It's just something to keep in mind. I know some people are not a big fan of having that numpad there, so that's just something you're going to have to deal with. Although, if you are a fan of that, if you like to crunch numbers, of course, it's really good. Although some people are not happy with the type of style of numpad with the key layout. That is not something that is ideal when it's crunching numbers. So some things to think about when you're looking at this device. And of course, the keyboard is backlit, so if you need to get work done in a dark room or a dimly lit environment, it worked well. Okay, let's check out the battery life. And the Samsung Galaxy Book 3 Pro 360 sports a 76 watt hour battery. Now, we did take a look at the clamshell version, the 14-inch Galaxy Book 3 Pro 360. That, of course, did 7 hours and 58 minutes. This did 10 minutes less than that. And again, I think we can attribute that to having the bigger display, more pixels to drive in that sense. But of course, it has the same resolution and so forth. So that is very similar in the modern office battery test, which, by the way, is a very good simulation of everyday use in an office environment, doing video conferencing, doing Word documents, doing spreadsheets, doing all those things, even some video editing, and throw in a few things, other things in there. You definitely would get a good simulation. Now, as far as the MS Office video playback and the PC-10 gaming test, you'll see very similar results to what we got on that 14-inch, although that 14-inch does have a smaller battery. This has the 76 watt hours, that has 63 watt hours. The Ultra, very similar in that regard, although you'll do a little bit less on the Ultra, I think due to the fact that it does have a discrete GPU. And we go over that in that full review. I'll drop a link for that review in the description below. And of course, the HP Dragonfly Pro running that Ryzen 7 7736U CPU, which is a very efficient processor, got really good battery life. I just did my review on that. Again, I'll drop a link for that as well in the description below. But I think overall, the battery life is okay. It's not going to be outstanding, so just don't expect to get really great battery life out of this, but you'll get decent battery life. Just depends on what you do, of course. And again, I ran these tests, by the way, in the 120 hertz, which of course means you're going to use the most battery life. So if you go down to 60 hertz, you can then get a little bit more battery life, of course, out of it, maybe an hour and a half. And then, of course, you could always put it on the dynamic refresh rate, which of course will switch between 60 and 120. So that may give you a little bit more as well. But just let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about this battery life? Now, as far as charging is concerned, they do include that power adapter in the box. It's a pretty high wattage adapter, and it allows you to charge pretty fast on this, giving you a full charge in around 90 minutes, which is very good. Now, as far as the CPU is concerned, this is running Intel's 13th gen processor. It's a P-series processor, the Core i7 1360P. That's 28 watts with 12 cores, 8 efficiency cores and 4 performance cores. And year over year, you're seeing a definite increase in both the single core and multi-core performance. So that is something we like to see. And the performance out of the CPU is going to be very good for doing everyday tasks, such as Microsoft Office, email, web browsing. It all worked well. You can do 1080p video editing with no problem, some light 4K video editing, although this has integrated Iris Xe graphics. And as I mentioned before, that's getting a little bit long in the tooth. We're not seeing a big bump in terms of performance year over year when it comes to that integrated solution, especially when you compare it to something like the integrated Radeon 680M we saw in the HP Dragonfly Pro. That integrated solution definitely did better in terms of graphics performance than what we have here with the Intel Iris Xe. Now, when it comes to gaming, don't expect to play AAA titles on their highest settings. It's just not in the cards with Iris Xe graphics. But if you lower some of the settings, you can get playable frame rates on some of the more popular titles. And when I ran the Time Spy stress test to see if this will power throttle under heavy load, it got a passing score of 97.2%, meaning it maintained good clock speeds throughout, even under heavy load. That's good in terms of the thermals. Now, as far as the fan noise is concerned, in the ultra performance mode, it never went above 3940 decibels, which is actually really good. Not too noticeable, not too loud, and not too distracting. Now, when it comes to the surface temperatures, once again, they did a good job keeping it relatively cool, never too hot to the touch. Couple of hot spots here and there, but nothing alarming, nothing out of the ordinary. So pretty good overall when it comes to the performance, keeping this laptop cool and quiet. Now, we got quad speakers on this, and they actually sound pretty good. Now, it does have Dolby Atmos. I did put it on the dynamic range setting, so it's going to have that good sound, I think, as best sound you're going to get, although you can tweak it in the settings that you'd get on this Galaxy Book 3 Pro 360. Now, let's compare it to the best laptop sound that I've seen so far, and that's going to be on this 2021 MacBook Pro with the M1 Pro. It's 14-inch. I don't have the 16-inch here. So let's compare the two. Let's see how they sound. Let's just get an idea. And then you let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about it? So let's get right to it. Okay, people, let's bring it all home. What do I think about the Samsung Galaxy Book 3 Pro 360 here for 2023? And I like a lot of the improvements year over year over the Book 2 Pro 360 from last year. Better display, higher res display, 120 hertz dynamic refresh rate, 16:10 aspect ratio, much improved. Things we wanted to see from last year, we're now getting it this year. Very good in that regard. And in addition to the improved display, we're getting better build quality here because they're going with an aluminum material as opposed to a magnesium alloy, which just doesn't have that premium feel that the aluminum has this time around. So better build quality. I like to see that. Although with that build quality, you get a little bit more heft, but I'll gladly take that extra weight if you're going to give me that premium feel that this does have. So definitely worth the trade-off. Now, as far as working seamlessly with other Samsung devices, it's got the quick share functionality among other features that works really well. I think it's very comparable to what you get on the MacBook or the Mac side of things. This is actually working really well, and I'll have a separate video on that very soon showing this seamless integration. It's got a huge spacious touchpad, which I like, although it's not a haptic touchpad. It's got a 1080p camera, although it's not IR. And finally, I noticed a little extra screen wobble that I just don't like, and it is a very reflective display, as I mentioned. But overall, Samsung, for the most part, made all the improvements I wanted to see over last year's model, making this one of the better, more premium 2-in-1 convertibles you can get on the market today. So please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share this video. Don't forget to leave a comment in that comment section below. Let me know how I'm doing. Let me know if there's a device or something out there you think I should review. I'll do my best to try to make that happen. Don't forget to check me out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, my website, amdtechreviews.com. So until next time, this is Andrew, and I'll see you in the next video.